Hey guys, welcome back to another editing tutorial. If you are new to this channel, my name is Ethan Eigenfeld. I am from Vancouver, Canada, and I like to edit photos in my free time. Here are a few of them. Now, in this video, we are going to be talking about how you can get a great feed on Instagram without spending hours of your time planning on it, or without being limited to the pictures that you can post. So I know a lot of my friends want to have a great feed, they want to have something aesthetic, but they don't want to be spending hours planning on it, and they don't want to be limited to what they can post. They want to post whatever they want. Instagram feeds are super important. I should have mentioned this at the start. Instagram feeds, especially if you're a business, so this is a business account, is the first thing people who are hiring you notice and see. You want that to be professional. If it's ugly, they're going to just stop looking at your Instagram, right? I found some solutions around this. And, if you like this video, please just drop a like right now or at the end, depending on this video. If this video sucks, don't like it. Just don't like it. But if you do like it, make sure to like it. So let's get right into this. Here are 3 great feeds from 3 great accounts that I follow. If you like these feeds, drop them a follow. They're all super dope people, super dope photographers specifically. Now, if you see something right here, these are 3 very different feeds. However, they all follow the same kind of thing, which is saturation. Saturation is whether a photo is super colorful or black and white. So the middle photo is clearly the most saturated photo out of the 3. On the right is clearly black and white, and then on the left is like toned down neutral pastel colors and blues. So the first tip I want you to keep in mind when you're doing this, guys, is you need to pick a color for your feed, or you need to pick if you want your photos to be super saturated, or on the left here if you want them to be neutral or like darker pastel colors, or even black and white. You need to make that decision now, because if some of your photos are super saturated and some of them are just super dark, it will not look good. I guarantee you that. And we're going to be going into what makes each of these feeds really good, specifically these types of feeds. So if one of these feeds interests you, like if you want a hyper-saturated feed, we're going to go into that right now. So this is my good friend Lucas. I did not ask you if I could use this in my video, Lucas, but hopefully I can. Arigato. So you need to decide if you want your feed to be warm toned or cool toned. Basically, a lot of guys probably know what that means, but obviously Lucas's theme here, it's cool toned. All of his photos have an underlayer of blue in it. And of course, you don't have to go with blue or orange. A lot of people just tend to go with that. So if we go back up here, Julius here, it's more like of a purple account, purpley pink. It's just way easier to choose between blue and orange. So if you want to stick with the basics, decide, after you've decided if you want your account to be super saturated or desaturated, decide if you want your account to be warm toned or cool toned. Once you get that pattern down, it will start to look phenomenally better. Now, number 2, Julius's account, you want to keep something common between all your photos, which is the hard part that people think will take tons of planning. Now, this is all assuming that you have Photoshop or some kind of editing software that you use on your photos. So with Julius here, do you notice something? Every one of his photos, look at all the arrows, they're all pointing to the brightest part in the frame. Every single one of his photos has a blown out part, a sunset, or something that's just completely white. So naturally, it just looks really appealing because all the photos are in a sense similar. So if you want to find something similar in every photo, that's great. A lot of people see this as having the same color in every photo. If you have a red object in every photo, whether a red object somewhere, that's going to look appealing. And I'm going to teach you guys how to edit something like that in any of your photos later at the end of this video. So stay tuned for that at the end. And then the last account here. So keep your blacks and whites the same. This doesn't mean make your photos black and white. If you guys don't even know what I'm talking about, let me just listen and I'll explain it. So with this account, Alan here, he keeps his black really black and he keeps his white really white. It's super contrasty, right? His whites are like the whitest of whites, and then his blacks are the blackest of blacks. I might sound like an idiot right now, but it makes sense because blacks can be more like a gray, right? And same with whites. Whites can be more like gray. There's different levels of shades. If some of your photos are way more contrasty than the rest, it won't look good. Just trust me. I don't think you've heard that before, guys, but if it doesn't follow the same shading, it won't look good. So my recommendation, before you post, turn your photos black and white, or even turn your feed black and white, screenshot your feed, turn that black and white, and then drag in your photo. Like this is on Photoshop. You take a picture of your feed, put that in Photoshop, drag in the photo you want to post, put that in black and white, put them both in black and white, see if the shades match. Or if you just know what your shades are, just go with that. I now have an example of a bad feed. I didn't want to single anyone out and say, you know, bro, your feed is just terrible and I'm putting it in this video and it just sucks. I didn't want to do that. So what I'm doing, I'm pulling my old feed from when I was like 16 or something like that. I was still into photography, but it wasn't good, so I decided I could just critique myself. So here is an example of a bad feed back in 2016. Now you can see all the three rules are being broken here, right? There is no warm tone or cool tone. In fact, the colors are all over the place. I didn't even follow the very first rule. If everything's hypersaturated or desaturated, literally, there are super colorful photos and black and white photos. Like, what is going on? Cool tone, warm tone, obviously nothing. There's warm right here, blue, blue, and just greens in there. The common denominator between all the photos, nothing. You can see there's a blown out spot there and a blown out spot there. That could be considered a blown out spot. But that's about it. There's nothing common here. And then the last one, the shades. The shades too are a bit off. You can see the blacks here aren't black, they're more gray. Those are heavy black. That's heavy black, heavy black, heavy black, heavy black. That's probably the best thing I got going in this feed, but it still wasn't consistent, right? Like the blacks on the shadow, if I wanted those to match, those would have had to be heavy black too, but it's not. So it doesn't look good. So if we keep on moving forward, putting all of these tactics into use. So I got a small promo here for my second Instagram page that I am actually launching this week. I put all these tactics into use and I tested this Instagram feed to see what it would look like, because Instagram feeds, especially if you're a business, so this is a business account, is the first thing people who are hiring you notice and see. You want that to be professional. If it's ugly, they're going to just stop looking at your Instagram, right? So putting all these tactics into use, I was able to create this feed right here. So I think it looks really nice. I've gotten a lot of people to critique it. They think it looks really nice. And if we analyze it here real quick, so the common theme of the white is blown out. So there's a blown out white, blown out white. There's basically in every photo, there's a solid white color. Just like in Julius back here, there's a white part in every photo. Shades of black are the same. That was something that I didn't realize to the very end. And something that you guys won't either unless you have watched this video. Something was very off with my feed and with this feed, and I didn't know what until I boosted the blacks and made the blacks match. So the blacks here and the blacks here match. The reason I can tell that was because when I posted this photo, it looked way off, and then as soon as I bumped up the blacks in my curved layer, it matched way better, and it just naturally flowed. And then every photo, this is also something I learned just before that, was blue toned. The feed was looking, again, off, and I didn't know why until I realized that. So this photo is unedited, and you can see it's not white, it's blue toned. And so I made every other photo here have like a slight blue, and then now it all matches and flows so crispy. So the last point on this slide is filters. A lot of people think that filters will solve all their problems if they apply the same filter to every photo. Now, I would only recommend you using a filter if all of your photos are more or less the same. So with this account, I did use a filter on every one of the photos with minor adjustments in between, but that's just because every photo is kind of the same. Every photo is like, it doesn't have any colors in it is the main thing. There's no colors. We're just dealing with shades, and they're all bright, right? If you're taking photos in like the Amazon River and then you're taking photos in like the city or something like that, it's not gonna look good because you're working with different colors. So only use filters to apply to every photo. if the photos look the same. Okay, now we're going to jump into Photoshop real quick and then just go over some of the things I talked about. I know my desktop is insane. If you know me, like, this just gets... If you're wondering why I call this shit, it's just because I'm just bad at organization. So we're going to jump into Photoshop here real quick. So, this was my feed, and it was looking off. This was my feed for a couple weeks, and I didn't get what was going on, right? And so, to fix this, if you guys all have Photoshop, which you should, you can always get a free trial for that. To test this, what I did is that I got some photos like this bird here, and I dragged it in, and I cropped it, right? Where's the bird? There's the bird. I dragged it in, and I cropped it over one of my photos, right? And I did that with a couple other photos. I did boom, bam, and then bop. And then I was like, hey, that looks pretty good. And that's when I started realizing the shades and the colors. And yeah, it caught on really quick. So that's how you can test your photos. And if you don't want to put that much work into it, you can make a test account. Just go on your Instagram, press add account, make an account. It literally takes 1 minute, and then post all your photos on there. Just delete, post, and then you can see what works. I have a test account. The only reason this works a little bit better is because if you post a photo down here on your test account, and you think it'll look better up here, you can't, or here, you can't really swap them. So that's why it works a lot better. So you can just drag this up. You can just drag this up and be like, yeah, that looks way better there, or something like that. And then you can post in that order. Let's go and figure out how we can actually edit a photo. Important Ethan stuff. Let's just find a photo that I've taken in the past. Portraits. Okay, this is me. This is me serving cotton candy. By the way, I have a side business doing cotton candy. I'm a really weird guy. I don't know. I like cotton candy. But this photo, let's try and match it to Lucas's feed. So if you remember Lucas's feed, he did the blue tone photos, right? So if you have a photo that's clearly not matching your feed, it's not the end of the world because you can make it match your feed easily. So let's say we wanted to make this photo match his feed. What I would also recommend, if you want to match it, just keep it open on the side so that you can keep looking at it or just keep referencing it. But I think I've got a good idea. So we've got this photo. It is clearly warm toned. So what we can do right off the bat is go to our adjustments here. We can go to hue and saturation because it's way too saturated. We can just bump that down a lot. Down there. And that's fine. We can go into color balance here. And you only work in color balance when you're trying to switch around colors. If you want to make something more warm, more cold, color balance is great for that. Hue and saturation is great if you want to just completely change the color of something. Not if you're trying to change the overall color of the photo though. So color balance, we can literally just play around with stuff. Half the time when I'm just going in my adjustment layers here, I don't even know like what will affect what. Like obviously I know pushing it to the cyan is going to make it more blue, but like you just have to test and find out what works. So if I go into somewhere and I'm like, oh, that looks terrible, like just test everything you can possible, and then you will know if something looks good. That's how you become a good editor. So I'm going to put the cyans down, add in some blues because the photo is obviously warm toned. Add in some greens, just go into shadows, more blues. So if you look into his feed here, his shadows are in the blues, if that makes any sense. And then highlights all the bright parts of the photo. Do we want to change anything in the highlights? Now we can just move it back to blue. Okay, so then just there we've already just changed the photo to cool tone. So now I have warm tone, cool tone. We also might want to do is, you can tell his blacks are really black. It's super contrasty, and our photo's super not. So we can go and add a curves adjustment layer, and we can pull down the blacks just like that. Pull down the overall blacks. And then, so that these are the highlight, the like the brightest parts of the blacks. So we can actually boost those up and then take down the lower parts of the blacks. That just makes it more contrasty. If that's too complex, you can just get rid of that and go to brightness and contrast and just bump up the contrast, take down the brightness. So then that's brightness and contrast. That's curves. Let's just keep it brightness and contrast because that's more simple. So then you've got this. So I'll add a bit more contrast in there and make it a little darker because his feed super dark, as you can tell. Now, if you wanted to change the color of something on your feed, because you can see Lucas here has red in all of his photos, or like some of his photos here, he's got red. He's got that common thing that we were talking about earlier. So if you wanted to change the color of something, it's such a basic thing. You can just go back into your hue and saturation and just, you know, change your hue. And if, let's say we wanted to make the cotton candy like red or like cyan, see there, just boost it up. Command I introverts that, and you can just start painting around the object that you want to be that color. And then we can just assume that every photo you have has that color in it. Like if it's not that color that's in all of your photos, just simply just boom, change the hue, make it the color, desaturate it, and you can do that with anything in your photo that has color. And okay, let's make it even more complex. Let's say something didn't have color and you wanted to change the color of something. Now I believe if you paint a color and you put it to overlay, you can paint colors and then kind of just make it your own by just painting around the object you want to be that color, which is a little bit harder, takes a bit more practice. But yeah, so we're saying now that in every photo in your feed there's red. That's why we're adding the wall to make it red. So you can also do that if you had the common thing of being red in all your photos. So then, boom, you got something that's red. That looks ridiculous. I don't know, like, it looks weird because what wall is red, right? But yeah, you can do that. What I also recommend before every photo you do is just put a vignette around it. Simply just go boom, oh my god, Lola. Yeah, she's too fast to get up on the couch. Sorry, Lola is my chubby tub dog. Anyways, okay. I'm totally putting that in there. We can make a vignette around the photo. So what I'm doing now, I'm just making like a special vignette just around the lightest parts. The reason why I'm using this brush and not this brush is that I find just a brush like this kind of blends a lot better. So then you got boom, boom, bam, boom. And his whites are super white, as you can see, super bright whites. So what we can do, duplicate these layers, merge them. I've said this too many times on this channel, but go to camera raw filter because it is the answer to all your problems. Boost up the highlights, boost up the whites if you're trying to get that look that Luke is getting. Highlights, whites, and then bring down the darks. Boom. And then press OK. And then now you've got your photo. Simple editing stuff. All we used here was brightness and contrast, color balance, hue and saturation, exposure, and the camera raw filter. If I went by too fast, text me on Instagram because I reply really quickly. Now, let's actually see what this looks like on his feed using the technique I was showing you earlier, which was blending that in the feed. And I'll show you exactly how we can do that if you're new to Photoshop. So we can merge all these layers here. We can drag this in, boom, crop it, and we'll put it right there. And all I'm looking for is the width. Make sure it's the same width. And I want it to be the same height. So what I'm going to do is make that half opacity so I can see the width and the height. Okay. And then just literally crop to the edges of the photo so it matches with the rest of the feed. And then press the mask, introvert that, and make it 100% opacity. And then you've got your test photo on your account. See, now you can see the power of this. I say that blends in pretty well. So we went from we went from this super warm, super saturated photo to that, using those techniques. So I hope you guys have gained something from this video on how to make a good aesthetic feed. If I've missed anything for you guys, just let me know down in the comments. You don't need to spend hours planning out your feed. You can literally do it in 5 minutes with a test account or on Photoshop like we just did here. Finding that common thing in every photo, hue and saturation, that is the key. But yes, that is the end of the video, guys. If you liked the video, please leave a like. If you did not like the video, just leave a dislike. I don't give a shit. But that is the end of this video. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you next week.